Welcome back to HorseRacingNation.com's coverage of the 2013 Kentucky Derby. In this video, we're going to mention Palace Malice, Normandy Invasion, Frack Daddy, and My Loot. And once again, I'm joined by my colleague Ryan Patterson.
Talk Derby to me, Jared.
And here we go. We're going to start with Palace Malice. And one of several, we had said it before, Todd Pletcher has so many horses, and this is another Pletcher horse.
Right, he ran second in the Bluegrass Stakes when last seen, and he was on the wrong lead approaching the wire, which may have cost him the win.
It could have, and he's been one that's they tried to get him in there. He ran in the Risen Star Stakes, he was a close third, and then he had all that trouble in the Louisiana Derby, and then they wheeled him back quickly in the Bluegrass, and then he almost got the job done, but he did get enough points to get in the Derby.
Right, and he's got the pedigree to run all day. He's by Curlin, who won mile-and-a-quarter races like the Dubai World Cup, the Breeders' Cup Classic. He won a Triple Crown race, the Preakness Stakes, and he is out of a Royal Anthem mare, so he's going to run for days.
And he's another one, he can stay out of trouble. He did get in trouble before, but he does have that positional speed where he can kind of work out a mid-pack type trip. Post position could be key if he gets towards the middle. I think that will definitely help him. Maybe it's too many races though in a short cluster, because a lot of times when they have to qualify for the Derby, they have to keep running them in these spots to get the points, and then by the time they get to the big race, they're over the top.
Right, and this horse has a lot of growing up to do. The talent's there, but can he have it all in place by the first Saturday in May? And I think if he's our next Kentucky Derby winner, it's going to be a serious tribute to the greatness of Todd Pletcher. And make no mistake, he's the best trainer in the world.
And it could be interesting that maybe not one of his most highly regarded horses, maybe almost like Super Saver, where he can come up and maybe not the horse that everyone's talking about, like a Verrazano.
Right.
He sneaks in under the radar and maybe surprises. The next horse is going to be Normandy Invasion for trainer Chad Brown.
Right, he finished very strongly in the Wood Memorial when he was last on the track, and he had no pace but still fired.
And he did, and he galloped out strongly, and that's why Javier Castellano chose him over Revolutionary.
Right.
It was probably a tough decision. They both looked like legitimate contenders, but he ended up going over to Normandy Invasion.
Right, Normandy Invasion, if he gets a quick pace and he can stay out of trouble, I mean, wow, who knows what might happen.
And he ran in that Risen Star, and he had a troubled trip. He didn't run great. That was his first start off the layoff. He was second in the Remsen. We mentioned the Remsen winner over Analyze earlier, who came back and won the Arkansas Derby. And then that was a good tribute to the Remsen, where Normandy Invasion then came back and he ran such a nice race in the Wood Memorial.
The form of the Remsen was much improved. We had Overanalyze come back and win the Arkansas Derby, and Normandy Invasion ran as well as he did. And those horses have every right to win the Kentucky Derby.
And that was one of the only late races now that seems like it held up from last year, and it earned a strong buyer speed figure, and then we were kind of iffy after their first starts, and they both
if you recall that weekend last year, it looks like the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes was just absolutely loaded, and the Remsen was like the throwaway race. Well, it turns out that it was the exact opposite.
That's true, and I remember people were talking about the Kentucky Jockey Club and said it had a low buyer, but they weren't buying that.
Right.
But now that looks like that was legitimate.
Numbers don't lie.
And speaking of the Kentucky Jockey Club, the next horse on our list, Frack Daddy.
Right, yeah, Frack Daddy, he grabbed a quarter in the Holy Bull Stakes, and he took him, he missed some training, and he was finally, probably back to himself in the Arkansas Derby, and he produced an excellent result to finish second. This is a horse that broke his maiden by almost 10 lengths under the Twin Spires and dueled to be second in the aforementioned Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes. So, Frack Daddy by Scat Daddy out of a skip-away mare, he could be there.
I really liked him earlier on after the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, and as you mentioned, when he looked so good at Churchill as well. And then he disappointed this year. He dropped out of my top 10. And then he bounced back last time.
He's had legitimate excuses, I feel like.
Yeah, he has. He had some problems and grabbed a quarter.
Training.
Yeah, so he definitely had issues. And now it seems like he's putting it back together, but still mentally and trying to play catch up.
Right, yeah.
It could be
Is it
tough.
too much?
Exactly. I think it's probably going to be too much too soon. I think he's a pretender, but he's a horse that I have respect for, and maybe later in the year I'll think that he could do something. But I just think right now the Derby's going to be kind of too much too soon.
Right, and for Frack Daddy, he's owned by Magic City Thoroughbred Partners, who won last year's Travers Stakes with Golden Ticket. Could they be back again?
And Ken McPeak's second horse, he has Java's War and Frack Daddy, so he's going to take 2 cracks at the Derby this year. The final horse in this video is going to be My Loot for trainer Tom Amos.
My Loot, and the first thing I think about My Loot, I picked him in the Delta Jackpot where he was about 30-1, and he made a big move around the turn, and I thought, I'm going to catch a 30-1 winner, and he hung. And then what did he do again in the Louisiana Derby? He made a big move, and he hung. So I'm wondering, is this horse, can he finish?
And
What do you think?
and the other in the Risen Star, he made a move too. He was fifth, and then he got up. He worked his way up, and then he kind of flattened out late, and then he just couldn't get past Revolutionary. It didn't look like he was ever going to get by him. And then on the gallop out, Revolutionary galloped out much stronger. Rosie Napravnik's going to pick up the mount.
Yeah, and she'll have a lot of support. She's riding exceptionally well, and deservedly so. She's going to be in the Kentucky Derby.
And she was riding this horse in the past that Sean Bridgman rode the last few times, but she's won on him before. He won at Fairgrounds. He won by over 10 lengths under Rosie, and she's going to pick the mount back up.
Yeah, Rosie's a gamer. Don't sell her short. She can ride a racehorse.
And the other thing about this one, out of Midnight Loot, we had mentioned that one in a previous video. This sire, red hot.
Right, yeah, absolutely red hot. But he had a lot of very, very nice mares bred to him, and Midnight Loot himself had distance limitations, and I think My Loot might have them too.
He could. He's probably going to have his work cut out for him, but I think he's going to take a little bit of action. There probably isn't going to be any such thing as a huge long shot anymore after Mind That Bird. People seem to
the trends
overbet.
have shifted.
Yeah, definitely, they
They've
overbet.
overcorrected.
Yeah, for sure. So don't expect a huge price on anybody. A lot of times these long shots, they end up taking more money than they should, but My Loot's made it to the gate, and basically the philosophy has been, since Mind That Bird, if you get in the gate, anything can happen, but I think this one's a pretender probably.
Absolutely, I agree.
Now, out of the four horses,
throw him out.
Yeah, toss them out. Out of the four horses we just mentioned, who do you like the best? Out of Palace Malas, Normandy Invasion, Frack Daddy, My Loot.
That's tough. I'm going to go with Normandy Invasion. He's the wise guy horse, and the wise guy horse seems to always run poorly. But Normandy Invasion could break that trend. If he can get somewhere mid-pack, 8-9 hole, they run fast, they go a 46 half mile, and he can stay out of trouble, and he finishes.
And we're going to agree this time, and the first time that we're going to agree on the same horse. I think Normandy Invasion
take it to the bank.
Is the dangerous one in here. He's got that ability to finish, and I think he could be peaking at the right time. He had that trouble in his first start off the layoff. We already know he was fast based on his Remsen last year, and then he ran a nice race in the Will Memorial, galloped out, and I think third race off the layoff. It looks like he's sitting on a peak effort, but he's going to have to overcome some traffic problems probably.
Right, yeah, Normandy Invasion. Like we said, if he can stay out of trouble and can keep from getting stopped.
Who knows? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
All right, so
the Kentucky Derby. Mind That Bird won.
That's right. If that Mind That Bird wins, who are we to say who?
Exactly.
Anybody can't win. Okay, so our last video we're going to start in a few minutes, and we're going to start it with Oxbow.